Celtic are the holders of Scottish football's crowns, all of them, and they've got no intention of letting any of them slip away. Simo Valakari has asked for heroes and miracles, just like in 2014 and 2021, just like 2 weeks ago. St Johnstone fans missed out on a Hampden party 4 years ago. They'd love to make up for that today and give themselves a shot against Aberdeen. Celtic under Brendan Rodgers with a perfect record at Hampden as they look for 3 in a row in this competition. And the suggestion that that defeat to today's opponents will not serve as doubt in the mind, but will have lit a fire, perhaps a wake-up call. And when it really, really matters, Celtic come alive at this venue. James Forrest wins it back on the edge of the area, then closed down by Jason Holt. And McGregor back to Cameron Carter-Vickers. Now Liam Scales. Rio Hatate. Taylor. And Engels now on the edge of the area. What a sliding challenge coming in from Balodis. Forrest looks to go to the byline. Sends it in. Maeda was up there along with Ida. And held by Andy Fisher.
Well, a bright start. You can see the intent. I think it comes off of Balodis in the end into the goalkeeper's arms, but you can see the speed and the intensity in Celtic's play. But also, St Johnstone are not here just to sit off. They want to get up and close Celtic down high up, which obviously has its risks as well. But the guys were talking before, it's a semi-final. Go and try and win the game. I think that should be applauded rather than just trying to park the bus. But it's easy enough to talk about it and try and come up with a game plan. The difficulty is going to execute it, and it's a big, big task for these St Johnstone players to go and do that.
Does that game at McDermott Park have any bearing on today?
I mean, psychologically, it could. You know, a lot of people, I imagine, thinking there's no way that St Johnstone are going to do 2 in a row over Celtic. But you heard Brendan Rodgers talking about it. I think he's right. It's a different park. McDermott's a little bit bobbly. It's difficult to get the game played quickly. There's a big park here as well. And it's the occasion of a semi-final. And quite often, as you just mentioned, at Hampden, Celtic do turn up. So I don't think there's too much to think about there. It's a massive game. Celtic need to go and win it.
Well, only 3 times in history have St Johnstone recorded back-to-back victories over Celtic. 1961, 65 and 1998. So not this century. There's Engels looking early for Ida. Johnstone now on the edge. He has it stolen away from him by Stephen Duke McKenna. And looking over the top is Holt for the run of Sidibe.
Well, that was good play from St Johnstone. Just a little bit disappointing from Jason Holt. Too much weight on the pass, but Sidibe's got pace at the top.
Ida's making the break here, and Fisher had to get the timing right on that. He was outstanding in the league in that victory.
He really was, Rory, wasn't it? Not just in that game, generally, Andy Fisher has made a positive difference to St Johnstone in the goal since he's come in.
Well, this is 14th goal since arriving on loan from Swansea. He's only conceded 14 goals, 6 clean sheets. James Forrest looking to change that here. It's Forrest, it's deflected and wide it goes for a Celtic corner on the far side as a bit of smoke engulfs Hampden Park. That is coming from the St Johnstone fans as they are vastly outnumbered, it has to be said. Johnstone sends it in. Quickly taken by Taylor. Scales gives it back to the Celtic left back. Johnstone wide for James Forrest. Of course, it was late in the season last year that he came alive to help deliver the title to Celtic. Rio Hatate drags that one wide.
Yeah, just a little bit too much space on the edge of the box there. I'd imagine Simo Valakari will be not wanting the likes of Rio Hatate to have space like that too often, because he's dragged that shot, but you saw last week, I know it was on the right foot, stronger boot, but he's not bad at all with both feet, and if you give him too much space, you'd imagine that he'll be testing Andy Fisher at some point.
Those 2 goals last weekend took Hatate to double figures for the season. There's a goal threat from throughout this Celtic team, as well, Cameron Carter-Vickers displayed last week as well. That stunning effort from range.
I mean, that response last week was pretty impressive. We said from Celtic. I'm sure Brendan Rodgers would have been feeling a lot happier about things after that 5-1 victory against Kilmarnock.
Ida goes for it, so too does Sprangler. Now Holt takes it away from Forrest. He's now surrounded, and then a foul from Ida on Curtis, or rather Balodis.
No, I think you're right, it was Curtis.
Trust the judgment.
He's not got a mask on, it's a bit of a giveaway.
Flicked on by Sidibe. Scales wins the second ball, and now McGregor closed down by Adama Sidibe. That drop off from Celtic, is it understandable when they're so far clear in the league? You know, they only had one defeat in the opening half of the season. That was away to Borussia Dortmund. Since the turn of the year, they played 22, won 14, lost 6. Is it understandable?
Well, yes, but it's clearly not acceptable for Brendan Rodgers. You've got to look at some of those games as well. I mean, not last week, 2 weeks ago against St Johnstone, a lot was made about, you know, the performance and the drop-off, but they still created a barrel load of chances, by the way, and, you know, hitting the woodwork. The goals, they changed the dynamic massively, and it just wasn't to be in terms of Celtic finding the back of the net.
Sidibe doing well up against Cameron Carter-Vickers, wins St Johnstone a corner kick. Of course, it was from a set play that Daniel Balodis got the only goal at McDermott Park.
Sidibe does brilliantly there. Not only has he got the pace to go and stretch him behind, but then the physicality to be able to hold off Cameron Carter-Vickers and get the shot away.
And 1-0 has been a favourite scoreline for St Johnstone throughout this cup run. All 3 games against Motherwell, Hamilton and Livingston being won by that scoreline. Yet to concede in the competition. Celtic managed to clear their lines. In fact, between the 2 teams, only Bobby Wales has managed to score against St Johnstone or Celtic in the Scottish Cup this season. That coming in Kilmarnock's 2-1 defeat at Celtic Park in round 4. One back by Clark for Carey, and the Irishman felt that challenge, but he's back up to his feet. Scales Maeda, the outstanding player in the country by some stretch this season, Dyson Maeda. Celtic enjoyed 80% possession when the teams met last. Managed 26 shots. There were 9 saves from Andy Fisher, but they never found a way through.
You know, I'm just looking at the build-up of the game there, and obviously, particularly the left side for Celtic with Greg Taylor stepping inside, it just causes a little bit more of a problem and an issue for St Johnstone to figure out who's going to be picking him up. Nicky Clark dropping in and trying to get in and around Callum McGregor, but it just means that there's so many more bodies in there for St Johnstone to try to figure out who's picking who. You've got Griffiths and Holt, Clark dropping in, but Greg Taylor just makes that an extra man that somebody needs to figure out getting close to him.
Hatate wins that well for Forrest. Now McGregor takes aim, and Fisher happy just to let that sting the gloves before collecting.
Well, he's done this really well this season, Callum McGregor, hasn't he? Just getting up on the game, and particularly in this position, inside right channel, getting onto the left foot. It's a very clean strike, but unfortunately for Callum McGregor and Celtic, it's straight at the goalkeeper on this occasion. You know, it's important when you're playing in that position that you don't just sit off the game and have no impact on it. Stepping in, recognising the space there. He's done it so well and scored so many goals this campaign from doing just that.
Now Scales looks for the run of his fellow countryman and Ida. Balodis, the Latvian, gets it away. Maeda closed down by Curtis. Scales gets there in front of Sidibe. Taylor up to Ida. Comes off Curtis. Celtic will continue in this corner. Ida again. Maeda arriving. And it's Barry Douglas who sends it as far away as he can.
It's a big afternoon for Adam Ida. You know, the manager's shown faith in him again, starting the match. I thought Brendan Rodgers handled the situation pretty well during the week, but it's now up to Adam Ida to go and repay that faith and put a performance in.
Well, the man who delivered the Scottish Cup last season with that late winner over Rangers, that as a lone player from Norwich, the move made permanent over the summer. Maybe hasn't quite hit the high expectations of himself and of the support just yet, Adam Ida.
No, I think that's fair. I do think that's a fair comment. He's at a big club. He's played second fiddle to Kyogo, of course, and in January you felt as if he was going to kick on, and he had a few games, he's getting goals, looked like his performance was going to improve, but just tailed off. You're only going to get so many opportunities to grab that jersey and become the #1 striker, and of course you'd imagine in the summer that Celtic are going to go big and bring somebody else in at the top end that can lead the line. So he needs to try and grab these opportunities now.
St Johnstone won't be the only team in the league that will be fairly happy to see the back of Kyogo. He scored 4 in 2 games against them this season before departing for Rennes. Now Maeda gets away from Curtis, sends it in. Balodis Knocks it clear, still alive though for Celtic, and Forrest! Not too far away, Forrest looking lively in the opening quarter of an hour.
Yeah, he is, but Maeda showing that improved end product and quality. Just pulls it wide a little bit there with the left foot, Forrest. Perhaps Fisher had it covered. But yeah, Maeda going down the outside. I know it gets headed away, but it's just another indication of where his final ball has improved dramatically this season.
Do you think he's best out on the left or through the middle?
I think up until January it would have been a quick debate on that, but certainly when he's been through the middle latterly in this campaign, he's looked very, very dangerous. So that's a difficult one, to be honest, to say now.
Well, and with him moving out to the wing and Forrest's resurgent form, it's keeping Nicholas Kuhn and Jota on the bench. Scales feeds Maeda. Has to check back this time and find Greg Taylor. Johnson, Hatate. McGregor. Maeda, bit of space for Hatate. Engels. Johnson, Celtic moving the ball nicely, neatly.
Yeah, but it's the speed that they move it as well, and they're running off the ball.
Forrest back to Hatate, quickly into Engels, trying that one-touch pass, but it's been given away. Johnson in. Holt steers it clear, and Nicky Clark did enough to help that to Duke McKenna. And now Sidibe, well, it's a role he'll have to play. He fouls Carter Vickers, but he certainly makes his presence known.
Yeah, he certainly did, but you can see obviously what St Johnstone are trying to do there as quickly as possible. Get the ball in behind and allow Adama Sidibe to open his legs and make it a foot race.
Taylor, Maeda, and it comes off Curtis just as the Japanese winger got in behind that back four. Celtic go quickly, they'll have another opportunity. Arne Engels trying to catch the St Johnstone defence unawares, but Graham Carey was equal to it. Engels targets that near post where Scales knew he had a decent opportunity, but it's come to McGregor, it's blocked off this time. The Celtic captain gets it out to Forrest, who loses out on this occasion. Now picked up by Clark. And Adamida just pulled up a little there, hobbling back towards the halfway line. Now Sidibe runs out of space. McGregor, Engels, Scales, Taylor, back it comes to Scales, now Maeda. Liam Scales, who's reclaimed that position alongside Cameron Carter-Vickers of late. Finds a good pass through to Taylor, who looks for Ida. Sprangler well positioned to make the clearance.
Yeah, I think with Scales in left-sided centre-half, Brendan Rodgers just feels he's a little bit cleaner in possession at times than Trusty. Allows them to build up perhaps a little bit quicker.
Curtis looks over the top. Sinisalo will come out and take no chances with that one. Missing, of course, the vast experience of Kasper Schmeichel.
Well, that man in your pictures is, I think it's fair to say, he's quicker, he's more athletic than Scales, and you see Sidibe there trying to get in behind. That's perhaps an area that St Johnstone should be looking to try to exploit, more so than over on the other side with Carter Vickers.
Fisher, and I think Curtis hesitated there as he perhaps thought he was going to be offside.
Well, I've got to be honest, I thought he looked fine. I thought he looked as if he was onside.
The discussion between the right back and Simo Valakari ongoing. The Finn was appointed in October. He's given St Johnstone a fighting chance of relegation, but the odds stacked against them still.
You could see at the start, obviously, St Johnstone were wanting to try and engage higher up, but Celtic have just been able to dominate the ball, work themselves higher up the park. But they need to try and get that ball into the dangerous areas as quickly as possible, because the deeper the team comes and the more bodies that are there, it becomes more congested. They've got to keep that speed in their play.
Kutati back to Taylor.
In moments like this, 1v1, that's where they really want to be getting it.
Maeda against Curtis, fizzes that one across. Sprangler, that heads clear. Taylor, Maeda now again, he gets Curtis one-on-one, he's past him. Dyson Maeda tries to tee up Forrest, perhaps had a few different things in his mind there.
Yeah, it just looked like he wasn't sure or convinced in what he was looking to do. Obviously cuts inside this time. Just here, that touch. Perhaps Belodis just defends it pretty well. Blocks him off where he was looking to go, and planted a wee seeded out in his mind. But yeah, that is the area, quite clearly, you want to get it with enough space to run in behind into Dyson Maeda's feet. Give him the option to run the line or cut inside and play quick 1-2s. And of course the same on the other side, you want to feed this man James Forrest for the same sort of thing.
He's up against Barry Douglas, slides it across, and making sure he got enough on that was Sven Sprangler, the Austrian.
You know, Rory, it's a simple game at times. Get the ball into wide areas, allow your man to go 1v1, try and hit the byline and put the ball in behind. Almost score from it.
Taylor from the edge, and he just tried to disguise that pass into Hatate when the vast Celtic support were crying out for him to shoot.
Just astonishes me why so many sides avoid doing the simple thing at times.
Well, and Taylor has got a pretty good goal-scoring record on this ground, both coming against Rangers, including in the Premier Sports Cup final this season. Engels back for Carter Vickers. Carter Vickers encouraged to shoot, and well, after last week, why not?
There's a wee wry smile there. But absolutely, I mean, look, he's almost on the edge of the box here, and nobody was really coming to confront him. He just cut across it, but I don't think Brendan Rodgers will be disappointed with that. I think he would be advocating to do the same again. The reason he's wanting, the guys to step in is to try to commit one of the defenders, pull them out of position, and if they don't step out, then keep going, get closer and have a shot.
Up. Now comes to Carey. Holt looks up the line. Well, coming up in midweek, it's semi-final time in the Coppa Italia and a Milan derby. Inter against AC, Wednesday, 7:55 on Premier Sports 2. And then La Liga next Saturday. The top two face off. Barcelona against Real Madrid from 9 o'clock on Premier Sports 1.
Two pretty good games there, to be fair.
Here's Carter Vickers. Engels drops short. Now Forrest. Carter Vickers again being allowed to wander forward. McGregor out to James Forrest again. Hatate comes to get involved. He's done well to make the space for himself. McGregor looked to unleash, and then Engels does too. Well, initially it was a really good block by Victor Griffith.
Yeah, it was a very good block, but it's a good strike from Engels on the spin, getting plenty behind it, but Andy Fisher just doing his job efficiently, body right behind it, no fumble, keeps it and takes all the pressure off his side. But it's the running off the ball from Celtic and the speed of their passing that really sets them apart a lot of the time. When people are too static, it becomes easy enough to defend against, but they're constantly on the move. The passing's quick. Takes a lot of concentration for the opposition.
McGregor joining in again. Hatate now looks to curl that to the back post where Forrest attempts to attack it. Always going to be a difficult ask.
Approaching the half-hour mark, I'm pretty sure Simo Valacari will be quite happy. As much as there's been a few moments for his goalkeeper to step up, he's done that comfortably. And the shots have been from a little bit more out, a wee bit of distance. Celtic have threatened to get in behind on a couple of occasions, but they've not really carved them wide open as of yet.
I mean, when you play against a Celtic side like this, I assume there will be areas where you have to allow them. You have to compromise somewhere, and if that is from range, you would think Simo Valacari would take that.
Absolutely. It's the lesser of two evils, definitely.
Actually has a 50% record against Celtic, both as a manager and a player. Won 3 of 6 in his time with Motherwell back in the 90s. Back to Fisher. Now Sidibe, that was untidy though. It's precious when St Johnstone do have possession. They've given it away too easily there. And now Celtic look to pounce with Engels, who cuts back, but it could only find Holt, and given away again. Forrest wins it from Douglas. And coming across was Griffith. And Duke McKenna controlled that. Helped up towards Sidibe. St Johnstone will take that as they're able to release some of that pressure on their defence.
Absolutely. Just gives them a little bit of a breather. You can understand what Engels was trying to do there. Just wonder whether there was the space to fizz it across the face of goal, though. Cutting it back to the round about the penalty spot, but unfortunately for him, it was just Jason Holt that was there. There was no Celtic player.
Scales, Maeda. Taylor overlapping, that opens up the space for Dyson Maeda. And it's straight at Andy Fisher again.
Well, rather than underlap, you can see brilliant overlap there from Greg Taylor, but poor defensively. The two players going with the runner. They need to communicate with each other there. Opened up a huge gap for Dyson Maeda to go and attack. Just didn't catch the strike well enough.
Down goes Carey. He'll win a free kick for the challenge from Hatate. Carey to try and float this behind that high line of Celtic's. Carter Vickers, the towering presence at the back for Celtic.
Well, Graham Carey is somebody that has got wonderful technique. Scored an absolutely sensational goal in the last round against Livingston to win it. And pretty positive that Simo Valakari would have been hoping in this game that there's set pieces higher up the park and Carey's delivery can threaten Celtic.
Well, Ida getting half a block on Fisher's clear out there. Didn't come to anything initially. Carter Vickers, Ida now with space to turn. And just not cushioned enough as he tried to clip that towards Maeda.
Should be turning and driving at the defence. It's that second touch, doesn't get out his feet. And he's sort of planted, and hence why he tries to clip that there. But if his second touch is good and it's in front of him, he could be getting the strike away, or he could be looking to play a little quick 1-2 on the edge of the box. He had plenty of space. Ida there.
Well won by Johnson. Comes back to Hatate from Forrest. Hatate on the left, now McGregor arriving. Callum McGregor! What a season he's having! Callum McGregor continues to step up. Celtic skipper leads the way and gives them a first half advantage in the Scottish Cup semi-final. 10 for the season for the Celtic midfielder. And what a stunning example he sets.
Well, I mean, look, first of all, from Celtic's perspective, it's a wonderful goal, and I don't think there was any doubt when this ball came to Callum McGregor with that space. You knew he was just going to find the corner. Andy Fisher's got absolutely no chance. Lovely little layoff from Hatate. He's able to get his body set, open up and find that corner. But for St Johnstone, they are the architects of their own downfall. You know, it's admirable looking to play football, of course, but you need to be doing it with a little bit of common sense. They're taking a by kick and clipping it into the middle of the park there. I just don't see the benefit of that there, particularly when you've not spent a great deal of time out of your own defensive third. They're not set. Barry Douglas is clipping it. It's not even the goalkeeper. I'm not sure that that's the most clever of tactics in that instance. I'm not even sure that I think it was Duke McKenna, whether he was actually really set to take that there. It just invites pressure.
Now Ida gets turned. Maeda waits. It comes off Curtis. Celtic really have their tails up now.
So you know, when you're talking about allowing the shots to come in as a lesser of the two evils, but I just think St Johnstone, it wasn't even like an open play where you're in good positions and you're allowing that strike. They were just far too open, and they were the ones that allowed that to happen to them.
Engels targeting that near post again. Maeda's header, Sidibe away. McGregor, who has 23 major honours to his name, he will be hoping that he will hold aloft number 24 on the 24th of May. Carter Vickers, Ida again shows short. McGregor bursting onto it, looking for Maeda! Celtic are already starting to think of the Scottish Cup final. Celtic's two outstanding players, Callum McGregor and Dyson Maeda, combine. That is 32 goals for the season for the Japanese winger, the best player in Scotland this season, and now a 2-goal advantage.
That's a great goal, it really is, and I love seeing that. You know, it's not something that Celtic did a great deal when Kyogo was in the side, because he was always looking at running behind, but with Ida, he can be that platform to just play off, and as soon as that ball's getting played, you see McGregor's on his bike, and as soon as he's picking it up, Maeda's got one thing in his mind: getting in behind the defence. It's almost cutting it out, but then that composure from Maeda to slide it into the bottom corner. It's the sort of goal you would see in small-sided games in training a lot. Hit the front man, get running, bounce off him, have a strike yourself or lace somebody in, and that's exactly what Celtic have done there. Lovely work goal.
Dyson Maeda, that's his 6th Scottish Cup goal this season, the first to do that since Henrik Larsson scored 9 in 2001. But he's scored in every round. If he can complete that in the final, he'd be the first Celtic player to do that since Brian McClare in 83-84. He's a player that really has lit up this season. And so much so that they haven't really felt the loss of Kyogo. It's 22 goals in his last 23 and a half games.
Not bad. You see that move that I was just saying, you know, in terms of for Celtic, when it can be very congested in the middle of the park and they've got so many players in there that are all getting picked up, hit that front man, because it slices right through the heart of all that pressure, and there was so much space there for Ida and McGregor to spin and get on the end of it. All of a sudden the opposition are on the back foot, desperately trying to get themselves set again. Just looked as if McGregor was on his bike looking for the same thing again there.
Carter Vickers looks for Johnstone, who tries to get turned but brought down by Duke McKenna. quickly taken, but Callum Scott won't allow it. Five minutes left, and you really do worry for St Johnstone with a scoreline like this. Swung in quickly, out comes Fisher. In the final 5 minutes of the half. Sinisalo. Now Carter Vickers again with space to drive forward into. Engels had made a great run through the middle. Carter Vickers electing not to deliver the ball over the top. Scales again with freedom to come forward. Celtic have it all in their own control. There's Griffith that wins it back for St Johnstone. They'll come under pressure, and too much so from Arne Engels.
See, it's interesting watching Celtic and the way that they build that game up at times, and you'll notice that a lot of the times Johnston's not.
Balonis loses out to Maeda. You cannot hesitate when he's around.
I was just saying, Alistair Johnston, he's not a lot of the times getting too high up on the game. You know, he'll drop and he'll deepen off, just so that he's not closing that space for James Forrest, and it just pulling Duke McKenna out.
Well, Celtic's passing, their movement is absolutely at the top of their game today. That had drifted out, which will be a relief to St Johnstone. Well, then goes Greg Taylor with that challenge from Sam Curtis.
Yeah, he's just caught him on the neck there, but you know, it's good for the referee not getting carried away. You see so often pulling out cards, for instance, like that, which are a nonsense, but Callum Scott not doing that, which was good to see.
Scales. Carter Vickers gives it straight back to Scales now. Hatate on the run, Eda's in the middle! Precision passing from Celtic. They have cut St Johnstone to pieces there. And they are heading for another Scottish Cup final. The treble is looking like it's another step closer.
Well, it's the running off the ball. You can see Carey just for a split second. You see him there, he knows. Split second, switches off. Hatate's in behind him. Eda's in between the sticks. And Hatate puts it on a plate for him. Celtic have been very good. Very good. A lot of running off the ball, as I said before. stretching the opposition. And then they've been clinical when they've got into these areas.
Alida scored in the quarter-final against Hibs as well. That, previous to this, was his only goal in 8 games, saving them for the cup. And we are into stoppage time, and with that, and Balodis reacts just in time, but Hatate has it again. Celtic want a fourth here. Hatate, Maeda, It's a rout at Hampden Park. A first-half demolition job from Celtic, laying down a marker. We knew there was a gulf between the teams, and Celtic are just laying out exactly how big the gap is between themselves and St Johnstone. A double for Dyson Maeda, and it's 4 with 2 right on half-time.
Well, I thought the chance had gone. Hatate, he really should have laid in James Forrest over on the right side. And eventually, look at this from Maeda, through the defender's legs, past the goalkeeper before he can react. But yeah, they'll feel like it's a sore one because of that heavy touch from Balodis. It's the quickness, bang. But when Celtic are at it like this, nobody in the country can live with them, really. And that's why Brendan Rodgers put that challenge to them, because he knows the intensity and the tempo is key to exactly this.
Disbelief amongst the St Johnstone support. They are shell-shocked. Their team cannot cope with Celtic. Absolutely top of their game. The best team in the country. And Celtic have had that on full display this afternoon at Hampden Park. Callum McGregor got it all started. Dyson Maeda has added a double, and Adam Ida got one in between as they rushed in with the goals towards the end of the half. And at the break at Hampden Park, it's a jubilant Celtic support around the National Stadium, because the scoreline reads St Johnstone 0, Celtic 4. Mackenzie Kirk, Benjamin Kimpioka and Taylor Stephen, the 3 to come on. That end to the first half has given Celtic this absolutely huge lead. And the problem for St Johnstone, well, there are many problems for St Johnstone, but when you consider that Brendan Rodgers will decide to make some changes at some point, the bench is unbelievably strong as well. And I suspect that, Michael, given that defeat 2 weeks ago, I can't imagine Celtic will let up. And you can only really draw those parallels to when Aberdeen came to Celtic Park, got their 2-2 draw just a few weeks before the Premier Sports Cup semi-final, and everyone was suggesting Aberdeen might be title challengers, maybe even a trophy, and then it was 6-0 at Hampden Park. You fear for St Johnstone.
Yeah, you do. But you're right, because I don't see Celtic letting up. Are they going to score 4 again in the second half? Probably not, but you wouldn't bet against it. I think Neil's absolutely spot on. I mean, look, obviously Celtic are a much bigger club than St Johnstone. The resources are huge in comparison, but that's all well and good. You need to turn up and perform every week, and that isn't easy, and that's the challenge. And you know, it comes back to the whole debate and the comments from that man Brendan Rodgers, and just making sure that the complacency does not seep in and he's had a wonderful reaction since then. Obviously, they stuck 5 past Kilmarnock, and the performance level was very good. It was probably up there with as good as it's been all season, and they followed it up here this afternoon. Very, very good from Celtic. And a lot of it is down to that intensity. You know, when they play with that tempo, it's very difficult for sides to live with them.
Forward it goes from Buildup, but now with McGregor. Maeda's on the move again. McGregor asks Taylor to push forward. Scales. Now Hatate. Celtic scored 5 against Wraith Rovers in round 5. Oh, it's Forrest, and it should have been put away by Ida. The winger did his job brilliantly. Here's Taylor. Maeda was flattened out at the corner flag.
Not sure how he managed to keep that in, but and I'm not sure how Adam Ida didn't manage to put it in the back of the net. I mean, great play for Forrest. Drops the shoulder, hits the byline. Still not sure. Buildup just got a handful of his shots there, perhaps, but it didn't stop Adam Ida getting into position, and could easily have been the 5th right at the start of the second half. But you see, going back to what I was saying before, the simplification of the game, quick in the passing, taking few touches, getting the ball into wide areas, getting 1v1s, getting in behind defences and causing problems.
Forward from Carey. Out comes Sinisalo, and he can let it drift into his own box. The PFA Scotland Team of the Year was named in the last few days. Celtic had 7 players in it: Schmeichel, Johnstone, Carter Vickers, McGregor, Hatate, Kuhn and Maeda. Kuhn hasn't even made this 11 starting today, and he is on the bench. Forrest delivers the cross. Will be turned out.
Yeah, it's a perfect example, just that move there of, you know, why Celtic have those fullbacks going in. It just passes and opens up that angle for the ball to get hit to the wide man quickly and expose them up against their fullback.
And the corner goes quickly. There's no respite for St Johnstone. Hatate just let that go under his foot.
I'd imagine he'd have been a little bit shell-shocked at half-time. They were creeping towards half-time, you know, in a not a bad position. And then rapid-fire goals, putting them 4-0 down.
Well, that's a great save by Sinisalo to deny Mackenzie Kirk. The flag was up in any case for offside. There was the subs combining. Taylor Stephen with the ball in, Mackenzie Kirk with the effort. Forrest perfectly weighted for McGregor. Celtic's passing was so crisp in that first half. Engels tries to turn one round the corner for Johnson.
Look at that though. Look at the urgency to go and win it back. Engels loses the ball and then straight away pressurising the opposition, trying to win the ball back. It's all aspects of the same, theme. Hard work, intensity, tempo in the game, in and out of possession. It makes it extremely difficult for the opposition.
McGregor for Ida. And then Holt taken down.
Well, Sinisalo's not had a great deal to do. It was very tight indeed. Lovely ball in and lovely little flick from Mackenzie Kirk. And very good save from the goalkeeper as well. It's that classic scenario for a goalkeeper, especially for Celtic in games like this where they've not had anything to do, but they've got to be concentrated for when something like that happens. And the Finn certainly showed he was there.
Ida loses out, and here's Kirk again. Oh, what a goal that is from Mackenzie Kirk. That's a stunning strike. And St Johnstone get one back to start the second half. It's a wonderful goal from Mackenzie Kirk, who got the winner in round 4 against Motherwell.
Well, obviously Celtic complaining, thinking that it should have been a foul for Adam Ida. Regardless, you cannot take anything away from that strike, and it doesn't matter how concentrated the goalkeeper is, he's not getting anywhere near that. VAR just asking the referee if he saw the two hands in his back there. That is an absolutely sensational strike from Mackenzie Kirk.
Well, you take the context of the scoreline out of it, it's likely that effort will mean nothing. And they're just checking whether, first of all, that Callum Scott had seen that.
Well, he's not going to. Well, they want him to come and have a look at it. It's going to be disallowed, you would imagine, which is bitterly disappointing for St Johnstone and Mackenzie Kirk. Yeah.
So Andrew Dallas and Alan Mulvaney instructing Callum Scott to come across and have a look at this.
I mean, look, the foul will be given. It'll be given. And I think it is probably the right decision. It probably is. But I do think Adam Ida should be a little bit tighter with that, though. It's a free kick, yes, but I still think Ida should have done better. And what a strike from Mackenzie Kirk, and unfortunately it's going to be disallowed.
Well, it won't count. It's a Celtic free kick. Another cheer goes up around Hampden Park from those in green and white. Takes the moment away from Mackenzie Kirk. Ida holds on to it this time. Ida again. Oh, that would have been rubbing salt in the wound.
But it's more of the same again, hitting the front man's feet 25, 30 yards out from goal, get runners off him. Changes the angle of things, it's causes problems for the defence. Just pulls the shot ever so slightly. Fisher's got it covered. I feel for St Johnstone in that one, because I'm not sure it's a shove. He's got his arms in the back, and I do think it's a free kick, but it's not a blatant, two arms getting stretched out and pushing him. He's almost just keeping him at arm's length. And yes, a free kick, but as the guys were saying, there's no way back into this game for them. But it's a little bit of a feel-good factor seeing a goal like that flying into the back of the net for St Johnstone and for their supporters. Disappointing that it gets disallowed.
Up goes Kirk again, and the offside flag is up. Party time in the Hampden Park sunshine, not so much for them. Duke McKenna still scrapping away, but so too is James Forrest. It's a Celtic free kick. And a yellow card for the Guyanese international.
Well, James Forrest does not be well to maintain his balance there.
Scales allowed to stroll forward. Maeda, Taylor, Hatate. Now Carter Vickers. Forrest. Here's McGregor now. And Engels. And Brendan Rodgers too is preparing a triple change. Engels to Forrest. I think will be two of those coming off now. Ida. Carter Vickers, Johnstone. Hatate. Engels, McGregor. It's a great display of keep ball.
Yeah, but it's keep ball with a purpose, you know. And again, I go back to, you know, they're constantly on the move, rotating, moving positions, stretching the opposition, and doing it at speed.
And then wait for their moment to pounce, or for a lapse in concentration. Forrest gets turned, drives through the defence. James Forrest goes down, and the penalty is given. Forrest on a weaving run. There aren't too many complaints from the St Johnstone players.
I just wondered whether, you know, there are not too many complaints, but I mean, look, I think it's a penalty kick. But it wasn't the most blatant. When you saw it in real time, you thought he'd been wiped out. But I do think it's a penalty. It's a great run from Forrest. Picks it up and drives at the heart of the defence. It was just, was it Holt, I think, that went in with the tackle, and it looked as if he'd maybe wiped him out in real time. But it certainly wasn't the case. They're checking it.
So VAR having a look.
When you're running at such pace like that, you get knocked off balance. I just think the combination of the two perhaps was enough. Maybe we'll see another replay. Maybe it'll have been the last bit of action for James Forrest as well, because I think he's about to get subbed, but he holds off Kimpioka really well. Now, do you know, looking at that replay, it may well be overturned. Yeah, maybe overturned. Yeah. Because you see, when you looked at the first angle from behind the goal, it looked as if the sliding tackle had maybe had a little bit of contact, but looking at that second replay, not sure it did impact him too much. And Baladis is just a shoulder, you know, contact. So you can hear VAR talking about that as well, that this first challenge, there isn't really a great deal in that, and I think that's right. I thought that there was more in that first challenge. Yeah, see, it doesn't, and that one from Baladis is nothing really. He's just coming across, it's coming together. Yeah, I think that Originally I was thinking it was a penalty. I'm not sure it is. I'm not sure.
Does the first challenge impede him enough?
No, I don't think it does. Initially I did, but then when you look at it from the second angle, you can see he doesn't really, and it's not like he's having to move his leg out the way either. So I think the right decision's probably been arrived at here.
And another overturned decision for Callum Scott. James Forrest looks a little bemused. He's going to be even more disappointed when he sees the number going up.
I mean, it's quite incredible because it's Sprangle that comes in here and you just instinctively think he's wiping Forrest out. But he doesn't.
Well, there's going to be the show of strength of Celtic's bench coming up here. Adam Ida will head off. He'll be replaced by Jota. So Dyson Maeda will go through the middle as he searches out a hat-trick. James Forrest will be replaced by Nicholas Kuhn. And the final change, we'll see Luke McCowan come on for Arne Engels. And when you see things like that, every other manager in the league must look at that and think, how can they compete with it? And right now, nobody can.
No, exactly. The strength and depth, the quality that comes on, and then it just adds that little bit extra energy and intensity that wasn't as if it was lacking in the first place.
And it'll be up to Jimmy Talleen to attempt to come up with a game plan and the personnel to try and derail Celtic, as Brendan Rodgers looks to add another treble.
Well, you've got to say they'd have to perform a lot better than they did yesterday. They got to through the final, which is the most important thing, but coming up against Brendan Rodgers and his side, Aberdeen will have to play a lot better if they've got any hope of getting their hands on the trophy.
Look like a handball from Kimpioka.
Having said all that, Aberdeen do have the components in the side to go and hurt.
Well, one would assume it'd be a very different style of game for Aberdeen.
Yes.
Rather than against the 10 man of Hearts.
Yeah, obviously the first and the second half were completely different games in regards to how they were panning out. Hearts were good in that first half, and equally they were good in the second half, but for different reasons. But Aberdeen I was expecting more from them, we've got to be honest.
Now Kuhn. With the drag back, makes its way to Hatate. McCowan. Well, he's worked his way back into the starting lineup, James Forrest.
Is he going to score a goal? 16 seasons it would be, I think.
Does it have to come in the league?
I don't know. I thought you'd be able to tell me that, Rory.
I think that's the case. I think it's I think it's the 16th
league campaign.
Yeah, I think so. Or every season of the Premiership. That's the stat. Here's Jota with the cut back, won by Griffith. Kuhn. Johnstone towards the back post. Jota! Jota gets in on the act. He's only just on the pitch. Johnson's ball to the back post was delicious. And Jota making up the ground to find the angle. A 5-star showing from Celtic, and there's still a quarter of this game to go.
Well, first of all, I've got to say, it's a pretty smart finish because it's a tight angle, but this move, you saw it so often in the first half of the season. Oh, it's a great goal. But that underlap, the drive and run from Alistair Johnstone, couldn't slipping him in. It happens so often in the first half of the campaign, and that is a really, really good finish because it's a tight angle. It's on the half volley. Great control finish from Jota. 5-0. And you just get the sense that they are desperate to get more. Celtic, they really do not look like they're going to be letting up at all.
Josh McPake is on for Graham Carey. Jota, who loves the big game moments, particularly here at Hampden Park, scored the winner in the 2023 semi-final against Rangers, then scored in the final against Inverness Caledonian Thistle before heading off briefly away from Celtic.
Well, who would bet against 2 6-0 victories in the semi-final for Celtic? Look at the hunger and the desire here now. As you said, just about to reach the 70-minute mark. They're 5-0 up, but they're desperate to win the ball back anytime they don't have possession.
Stephen Kirk to McPake. Being driven backwards by Johnson, illegally so. Coming up in midweek in the Coppa Italia, it is 1-1 in the Milan derby. It's the second leg between Inter and AC. That's 7:55 Premier Sports 2, and then on Saturday, Barcelona against Real Madrid in La Liga. That's from 9 o'clock Premier Sports 1, and then on the 24th of May, the Scottish Gas Scottish Cup final will be between Aberdeen and Celtic. And Rio Hatate is making way. Paulo Bernardo, the Portuguese, will come on to replace him. Did score in the 6-0 game against St Johnstone back in September. Maida, it's given away to Kimpioka. Now Holt. Scales. First touch for Bernardo. And into the final 20 minutes. It was all about how long it might take Celtic to get that first goal. Once they did, they have not looked back. Scales to Sinisalo. Well, some sight all around Celtic Park. They must have 90% of the stadium. So, well, you can understand. Hampden Park, my mistake. Feels like a home game, that's for sure. Pelonis. Scales for McGregor.
That was a lovely first touch for McGregor.
Jota now. And McCowan couldn't quite take it with him. When Duke McKenna goes down, he's switched over to that right-hand side with McPake coming on. Bernardo. McCowan. Kuhn asked Johnson to fill that space. Maeda won't be getting on the end of that.
Well, obviously talking before the game in regards to St Johnstone being able to pull off a wee upset and get through to the final, and how that would help them in their quest to get out the relegation spot. You do start to worry when you see side coming on the end of a doing, how it really affects the belief and confidence in what is already a tall task.
Here's Maeda. He's on a hat-trick, Dyson Maeda, and lifts it just too high.
It was a great first touch. Sets himself perfectly to then just get the shift and the strike. As you said, on the hat-trick, he'll be disappointed he's not worked the goalkeeper there.
Well, Simo Valakari is going to bring on Uche Piezu. It'll be Stephen Duke McKenna that makes way, and it's a debut for Nick Piezu. Signed in July from Port Vale, but he's had a nightmare of it with injuries. And now comes on for his first appearance in St Johnstone colours. He came on in the 2019 Scottish Cup final for Hearts when they lost 2-1 to Celtic. Odsonne Edouard and James Forrest turning that one around.
You see, sorry, Rory, you see there, perfect example, a centre half, Carter Vickers. I mean, he's strong as an ox anyway, but he knows that he's up against now somebody who is equally adept at using their body, but he doesn't get touch tight the whole way. He steps away, allows himself that space not to get pinned, and then he can go and attack the ball, and he still wins it. You see so often guys trying to wrestle with folk that are too strong for them. Step off, give yourself the space.
Now Kuhn wants it on the left. It was always struggling.
You see here as this ball comes up, steps away, and then he's able to go and challenge and win for the ball. Instead of allowing Ikpeazu to feel where he is, and pin him and hold him where he wants him. It was very good defending for Carter Vickers, and showing that he's got other ways of being able to defend against strength.
Which has been a criticism of Celtic from a defensive point of view. So another change. Alistair Johnson, after that assist for the Jota goal, will make way. Anthony Ralston comes on, scored against Kilmarnock last weekend, right at the end of that game.
Alistair Johnson was good this afternoon, he was, and obviously Anthony Ralston getting some game time. More than capable, deputising there.
Well, uncomfortable on this pitch, of course. He started the last 12 games for the national team. Doesn't get quite so much of a look in at club level. Jota, Taylor, Bernardo, and Taylor again, and then to Sprangler, and here's Kimpioka. Well, neat turn. Looks back for the option from Griffith. McPake. First touch for Ralston. Ikpeazu the target, but McGregor got there first. Stephen. Now Maeda to Kuhn. McCowan, Maeda. Back comes Kimpioka now. Taylor Stephen away from McCowan. Stephen needs some help now, and he wins the free kick. McCowan not happy with him.
He's not happy. He did very, very well there, Taylor Stephen. I think frustration there from Luke McCowan a little bit as well. Might have been soft in the end, but I think it was just a combination of the challenge all the way. I think that yellow card's just there for the reaction. But really good play from Taylor Stephen. You can see there just grabbing his arm a little bit. Yeah, there's not much in the end, but I just think it was that combination of the whole drive and run and the challenge there from Luke McCowan that gave away the free kick.
There's Benjamin Kimpioka eyeing this one up. St Johnstone look for a consolation. Something for their supporters to cheer. Celtic will be determined to keep the clean sheet, and Kimpioka fires it straight in at the wall and flashed well over the top from Jason Holt, playing in his third Scottish Cup semi-final against Celtic. Kuhn, that'll be a free kick for St Johnstone. Ten minutes left, and Brendan Rodgers still making demands. It's certainly seen a lot more chat about it of late. Would it be a concern, or how much of a big issue do you think it is? Brendan Rodgers' future, he's got another year left on his contract. Would you be thinking the club would want to be getting that extended?
I would imagine so. You know, it's, you know, you think about a player, you don't want to let them run into the last year of their contract, so I would imagine that they would be looking and wanting to try to extend his contract. I mean, look, he's a top-class manager. Why would you not want to keep him at the club for as long as possible? Realistically, you know, how long do you think he is going to stay here? Europe is clearly the challenge, and it's the one that's exciting. They did well this season, and he's going to look to do better next as well. And if they keep making strong signings like Kieran Tierney, then working with top players is obviously enjoyable as well.
Is it about matching ambition then?
Of course it is, and I think that's what the statement and the comments from him the other week were all about as well. That he wants to continue to drive and push the club forward, which on the face of it, the club should be welcoming those comments, and they should be backing up what he's looking for.
Because is that something that now has filtered into the support? Because Celtic have had so much success of late that now the belief is that domestic success isn't enough.
Well, it's not so much that it isn't enough. The expectation is that it's almost a given that domestic success should be there, and the challenge is for Europe, and look, they've put together a very strong squad, and you look at the difference from when Brendan Rodgers first came in that first transfer window, which was disastrous, to what he's doing now. It's clear that there's progress being made. If you don't keep making those strides forward, then you plateau, and if you're plateauing, then there's the danger of that complacency setting in. And the big challenge for Celtic is that they've got to drive a lot of that themselves, the competition, because domestically there isn't that force out with that is going to drive them on as much as perhaps they would seek and hope. So they've got to do it themselves, which can be difficult at times. It goes back to what Neil Lennon was saying at half-time, you know, to turn up and perform all the time when perhaps that pressure from outside isn't there.
Nick Pezu gets his head to that, gives away a free kick in the process. Here's McCowan, he's been urged on by the support. It's a great run from Jota down the left-hand side, couldn't quite take it in his stride though.
He was onside as well. It just is that split second where Luke McCowan has to shift on his left foot to get the angle for him to hit it, whereas if he was obviously predominantly right-footed, he'd been able to play it that split second quicker and it would have maybe been in front of Jota.
McCowan, McGregor, Taylor, Jota, Bernardo on the edge. Kuhn will leave it for Ralston. Now McCowan. McCowan deceives the St Johnstone players and ends up with a corner.
We're still pushing and probing.
Bit of space for McGregor, who finds Kuhn. Now Ralston back with the captain again, who got it all started with that opening goal. It's been a show of utter dominance. You're right though, for Simo Valakari, this has to be parked. They've got a huge task in the league, 5 points behind Dundee, bottom of the table. If they are to claw that back and get themselves away from relegation, that would be an almighty achievement for St Johnstone.
Yeah, it'd be a monumental achievement if they were able to do it. The first game against Motherwell away.
Here's Jota again. And there were just no takers in the middle. Well, Jota can't believe it. A bit of magic from the Portuguese winger. Five goals since he returned. Griffith. Holt looks over the top. Bernardo. Taylor. Jota. McCowan. Ralston and Kuhn. Jota. Taylor. Oh, McCowan was looking for that ball to come in earlier. Jota has to go and retrieve it.
Gets on the end of his own layoff.
Here goes McGregor again.
He's been outstanding today, Rory. He really has. Fulcrum in midfield, and you know, he's at the centre of a lot of the good from Celtic, and he's the one that injects a lot of that initial pace into the game, which is so important for Celtic. Never taking too many touches.
Got some driving runs as well. Here's Jota once more. Good link up with Maeda, just over the top.
Just had to get the shot away quickly. He was getting closed down there, Jota.
Now, Michael, time for your player of the match this afternoon.
Well, I was just talking about him. For me, Cal McGregor in the middle of the park. Got that goal as well, starting things off, and he's been top performer this afternoon. He's my man of the match.
Well, the one bit of good news for St Johnstone is there is to be no additional time at the end of the 90, which is quite incredible after the 2 lengthy VAR checks. But
the officials are doing what I think everybody understands and would not criticise. Don't extend the misery any longer. That's an awfully big pocket.
As Stephen swings the ball in and retrieved by Sprangler into the middle, and it was play on. Well, actually the ball was out of play, so it will be Aberdeen against Celtic in the Scottish Cup final for the 8th time, first since 2017, and then the Wizard of Oz, Tom Rogic. It's Brendan Rodgers and Shimo Valakari already just thanking each other for the game. It's Celtic with a show of utter dominance. 5 goals without reply, and really that spell just before half-time killed off any hope that St Johnstone had. Callum McGregor got it started, Dyson Maeda got 2, Adamida scored 1 before half-time, and Jota came off the bench to score within a couple of minutes. So it will be Celtic and Aberdeen again, as they met here in the semi-final last season, and that turned into a real classic, went all the way to penalties, a 3-all draw. If we get half the drama of that game on May the 24th, we'll be in for a treat. But Celtic were levels above St Johnstone this afternoon. Their continued dominance of Scottish football goes on. The potential for a treble goes on. And right now, there just looks no stopping them. Aberdeen will have to come up with a plan. The full-time score at Hampden Park: St Johnstone 0, Celtic 5.